something feels off inside the royal family right now. And no, this isn't the usual tabloid noise or recycled drama. This is quieter than that. Subtle, almost controlled. Because on the surface, everything looks exactly as it should. The appearances are polished, the smiles are measured, the image is intact. But if you look just a little closer, you begin to notice something isn't quite lining up. And the strangest part, no one is saying it out loud. Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning, and you don't want to miss what comes next. You see, the royal family has always been built on one thing above all else: unity. Not necessarily real unity behind closed doors, but the appearance of it. For decades, that image has been carefully protected, maintained, polished to perfection. And for the most part, it worked. No matter what was happening privately, the public saw a family that stood together, a system that functioned, a structure that endured. But now, that image feels different. Take a look at the current landscape. You have King Charles III stepping into a role that carries not just authority, but expectation, an expectation to steady the institution during a time of change. Then there's Prince William, positioned as the future, the modern face of the monarchy, calm, composed, increasingly central. And beside him, Catherine, Princess of Wales, arguably one of the most stabilizing figures the royal family has right now, measured, strategic, and remarkably consistent in how she presents herself. From the outside, it looks like a well-structured transition, a monarchy adapting to a new era. But here's where things begin to feel unsettled, because this isn't the full picture, not even close. There's a noticeable absence, a gap that hasn't quite been filled, no matter how carefully the narrative is managed. And that absence leads directly to two names that continue to linger over everything: Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Once, they were not just part of the system, they were central to it. They brought attention, energy, a different kind of global relevance. For a moment, it even seemed as though they represented the monarchy's future. And then they stepped away. Now, on paper, that's where the story ends. A departure, a new chapter, separate paths. Simple. Except it doesn't feel simple, because their absence isn't just physical, it's structural. It changed the balance of the entire institution. And since that moment, something has felt slightly misaligned. Not broken, but not seamless either. If you watch closely, you start to notice patterns. Moments where interaction would be expected, but doesn't happen. Occasions where unity would naturally be shown, but isn't emphasized. Silences where, in the past, there would have been clarity. And this is where it becomes interesting, because the royal family doesn't operate like an ordinary family. It's an institution, a carefully managed system of image, tradition, and perception. Every appearance is deliberate. Every statement is considered. Every absence is noticed. Which means when something feels off, it usually is. Not in an obvious, dramatic way, but in a controlled, almost understated way. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. A version of unity that feels maintained rather than natural, presented rather than effortless. And people are starting to pick up on it. Not through headlines, not through official statements, but through what isn't happening. Because sometimes the strongest signals come from what's missing. The interactions that don't take place. The names that aren't mentioned. The moments that never quite materialize. And over time, those small details begin to add up. They create a quiet kind of tension. One that doesn't explode, but lingers. And that tension raises a very uncomfortable question. Is the royal family still as unified as it appears, or is it working harder than ever to look that way? Now, to be clear, this isn't about assigning blame. It's about recognizing a shift. Because the monarchy today is not the same as it was before. The dynamics have changed, the structure has adjusted, and with that adjustment comes pressure. Pressure to maintain relevance, pressure to maintain stability, and most importantly, pressure to maintain the illusion of unity. But here's the thing about pressure. It always reveals something, even when it's carefully managed, even when it's quietly contained. And right now, what it's revealing is subtle, but significant. A distance that didn't used to feel this pronounced. A division that isn't openly acknowledged, but is quietly understood. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to ignore. Because at its core, the royal family relies on one fundamental idea: continuity. The sense that no matter what changes, the institution remains steady. But what happens when that sense of continuity starts to feel uncertain? What happens when the public begins to question not just what they see, but what they're not being shown? That's where things become complicated. Because once that doubt sets in, it doesn't disappear easily. It grows, it lingers, and it forces people to look deeper, to question more, to connect the dots in ways they didn't before. And when that happens, the narrative starts to shift. Not dramatically, not overnight, but gradually, until one day the image no longer feels quite as convincing as it once did. And that brings us to the real issue. Because this didn't happen by accident. There was a moment, a specific decision, that set all of this in motion. A decision that didn't just create distance, but redefined relationships, reshaped priorities, and quietly altered the direction of the monarchy itself. At the time, it may have seemed like a personal choice, a step away, a change in path. But looking back now, it feels like something much bigger, a turning point, one that continues to influence everything we're seeing today. And once you understand that moment, once you see it clearly, the current situation starts to make a lot more sense. The distance, the silence, the carefully maintained appearances, all of it connects, and all of it leads back to that single decision. In the next video, we're going to break down that exact moment, the decision that divided the royal family, and why it may have changed the future of the monarchy entirely. Trust me, once you see it, you won't look at any of this the same way again. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.